In this episode of Planted, we're excited to showcase the Vista Garden, a hidden gem in Bremerton created by horticulture author John Albers.
We're going to explore the amazing plants that thrive in this hillside garden, including the world-class conifer collection. Meet John and learn his passion for gardening and share cool opportunities to visit and enjoy this lovely botanical garden.
It is such a beautiful day. Let's get in some garden time.
Yeah.
The lovely 4+ acre Vista Garden has amazing views of the Port Washington Narrows and Finney Bay. This south-facing garden is a paragon of how to effectively create a garden on a hilly and exposed lot. And we're standing in what's called the Bioretention Garden, one of 15 distinct garden rooms designed carefully to fit the exposure, topography, and microclimate of each spot.
This garden features steppers that lead through the metal arbor and swaths of tall ornamental grasses and colorful perennials like asters, autumn joy sedum, salvias, and California fuchsias. Many of the plants here are repeated throughout the garden because of their adaptability and hardiness.
A combination of evergreen heath and heather cultivars in different foliage and bloom colors brighten this garden all year round. Shrubby ground covers that include lavender, rosemary, potentilla, dwarf conifers are attractive choices for this sunny and open spot.
John has expertly woven the different garden areas together with granite steps set into the slopes and paths of Canadian granite dust that follows the hilly contours. First, he planted conifers in strategic locations in the gardens, filling in around them with other types of plants. The Vista Gardens is a plant lover's garden, combining all plant types in attractive layers.
We've talked about layering in other planted videos from an aesthetic standpoint, but layering is functionally important for soil stabilization too. The ground covers root shallowly and prevent surface erosion. They draw moisture from the first 6 inches of soil, whereas the woody plants, like big shrubs and trees, knit the slope together and seek water and nutrients further down in the soil profile. The shallowly rooted plants like grasses and perennials, they share the wealth with the trees and shrubs that root more deeply.
Together, the different layers of plants from the tree canopy to the ground prevent erosion by slowing down the raindrops that hit the trees and cascade through the plant layers, slowing each plant as it hits. By the time the rain reaches the ground, it has less force and is more easily absorbed into the soil surface. This is a key for controlling runoff and preventing erosion on slopes. So is limiting the amount of bare soil that is not covered by plants.
John paid careful attention when planting the different areas, observing how the top of the slope gets the most wind and the most intense sun. It's also where you'll experience the best views. Plants chosen for this area can handle the harsh exposure and are the most drought tolerant. Some of the plants you find here are strawberry tree, multiple pine tree varieties, kinnikinnick, and blue spruces.
The John Lentz Garden is a shady spot at the bottom of the long sloping garden where it receives more water courtesy of gravity and carefully contouring. It was planted accordingly and features 30 rhododendrons from a rare collection, dawn redwoods, maples, and many types of ground covers. In summer, it feels lush and cool in comparison to the more exposed areas of the garden.
One of the most challenging parts of planting and maintaining plants on a slope is irrigation. Sprinklers are not a good choice on slopes. Drip irrigation, set to release water at low rates over longer periods of time, will allow the water to soak in and penetrate the root zone. To establish plants, plan on careful hand watering for regular deep soaks for 2 summers at least, with supplemental watering in some years as the weather dictates. A lot of this will depend on what soil type you have. Sandy soils are easier to get water to soak into, but they're harder to keep moist, and this is where mulches come in handy.
Vista Garden soil is mostly clay, which holds moisture well. This has made it possible to grow the wide variety of conifers in Sam's Conifer Reserve with no supplemental irrigation beyond the hand watering in the first 2 summers to get them established. That's impressive.
If you're looking for inspiration for how to plant your own sloped landscape, bring your notebook and camera and come take a stroll at the Vista Garden.
Or for our out-of-town planted viewers, visit vicariously with one of John J. Albers' 3 gardening books. Thank you for joining us, and remember, the more you grow,
the more you know.
have the pleasure of interviewing John Albers, founder of Vista Gardens. We're about to learn his gardening story. I have a suspicion we will all be transformed by the beauty and knowledge we gather from him today. So John, let's get into this.
Okay.
Growing up, you had a large vegetable garden. What was your favorite thing to grow, plant, and harvest as a child?
My father had a large vegetable garden. Something really special about watching plants grow, mature, and ripen, and picking them and then seeing them end up on our family's meal. The perennial vegetable asparagus is my favorite because nothing beats steamed, fresh-cut asparagus.
No, it doesn't.
My identical twin and I, when we were only 8 to 10 years old, used to go door to door and sell our freshly cut asparagus to all our neighbors to save money for college. Everyone, all our neighbors loved our freshly cut asparagus.
Wow, what a new spin on a mobile lemonade stand, but with asparagus.
Yes, that's correct.
Moving on, what influenced you to start this beautiful botanical garden that we're in today?
Well, I was driven by my love of plants and landscaping and my desire to share my passion with the public. I saw an opportunity for horticulture research and plant conservation. It's not every day that someone creates a botanical garden, but for me, it was to create a living classroom where people can connect with nature and learn.
Yeah. So John, you're a scientist and you approach gardening with a focus of experimentation and documentation. Do you think having that background makes the experience more enriching for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being a scientist certainly has driven my approach to gardening. My goal was to use Vista Gardens as a living classroom to evaluate and select exceptional plants for Northwest Gardens and implement sustainable landscaping best practices. This activity gives me insight into what works best for our region's unique climate and soil conditions and makes gardening a never-ending discovery.
Conifers are one of your many passions, and you have over 450 of them. Can you tell me about one that is your favorite?
I certainly can. My favorite conifer is Cedar of Lebanon Green Prince. I purchased this conifer way back in 1985, nearly 40 years ago, and we planted it in Vista Gardens around 1990.
Wow.
Drought tolerant, pest and disease resistant, long lived. In fact, Cedar of Lebanon can live 300 years or more. Of course, being drought tolerant, it requires no supplemental water except what nature provides. It's a beautiful dwarf conifer that stands out in the environment and demonstrating its structure and elegance year-round.
You have written 3 great gardening books, 2 of which are about sustainable gardening. That's a quite accomplishment, right, in itself. So, do you have any thoughts for another book?
I certainly do. My 4th book is about how we can adapt to the changing climate and select the right plants. This is increasingly important as we face changing climate conditions. We need to select plants that are resilient, drought and heat tolerant, adaptable, improve the urban ecosystem, and are aesthetically pleasing. We need to adapt our plant choices to fulfill one of my core sustainable gardening rules: the right plant in the right place.
Thank you, John, for being part of Planted and sharing your magnificent garden story with us today. Why you garden is an inspiration to all of us. We hope you can come out and immerse yourself in the beauty of this unique garden. And if you can't make it here, garden vicariously with one of John's books, available at vistagardens.org.
Talk about a hidden gem? The Vista Gardens is a wonderful Kitsap County resource that deserves more attention. And here to acquaint us with the Vista Garden now is Becky Kopelman, the new executive director. Baki, give us the short history of the garden.
Well, Vista Gardens is really a passion project. This property was purchased by John Albers and his wife, Santisa Markovina, back in the 1900s, as it were. But it became a public botanical garden in 2007 when they first formed their nonprofit, the Albers Markovina Vista Gardens Foundation. And the idea behind that was making sure that there was a public space focused on sustainable gardening and landscaping practices, where it could be an educational resource and just a place of beauty for people to come visit.
Kitsap gardeners, not a lot of them know about this place, and I know you have plans to change that. So what is going to be different with the visitor experience now?
One of the first things we did was identify the difference between the nonprofit foundation and the gardens itself. So we've rebranded the gardens as Vista Gardens to simplify the name and make it more accessible on a map so people know what they're getting into. And some of the big changes are we have more open garden days. Right now for fall, we're open on Thursdays and Saturdays from 10 to 12. But what that means is we're accepting visitors from 10 to 12, but you can hang out in the gardens as long as you would like while you're here. Additionally, we have more tours and workshops, and we have events that we're planning. And as we continue to grow, our real goal is to reach out beyond the fence line of this garden and engage with community members in other spaces as well, bringing educational opportunities and inspirational opportunities both here on the property and in the area.
Sounds wise. Okay, so educational programs, what do you have lined up for that?
So right now, our workshops will be covering propagation. We have a propagation expert coming to help us with our new greenhouse and to teach some classes.
Oh, nice.
John is also going to be teaching workshops on composting, on choosing the right plants for drought-tolerant garden areas. More than anything, we're looking to attract local experts to help really embellish our program for this fall and coming into winter. And we're going to be offering some workshops that aren't specific to gardening, but surround the areas of gardening, like photography in the garden and painting in the garden. So we're growing what we're offering between now and next spring.
I know that you just hosted a big grand reopening, and I hear it was quite the garden party. So are you going to be doing more of that kind of thing too?
We'd love to be having more garden parties with a mission, as it were, bringing together community members, passionate gardeners, people who are just interested in what we're doing here, and helping to inspire them and also generate a sense of community so that we have ambassadors out there. And the fact that this is a public resource and can provide everything from a wonderful place to have a picnic or do a photo shoot with your loved one to being an educational facility.
As a photographer and with your video background, I understand that you have some plans for the future for garden videos with John Albers.
Yes, so I mentioned before that accessibility is one of the areas we need to improve and that we're targeting with our new strategic plan. And the idea is to make sure that people who can't come to these gardens, who live in Oregon or somewhere else, or just don't make it out here, have access to a lot of the educational workshops that we're going to be putting on. So we're going to be creating long content and short content videos with John Albers and other garden experts on different subjects that people will be able to access online.
This is an inspiring garden. You said inspiration, providing inspiration. For you as a photographer, what is your most inspirational part of the garden for taking pictures?
I love that question because it's so hard to answer.
Sure.
But I'm going to have to say the Stroll Gallery, which is a garden area that has plants from all over the world. But something that really pulls me into it is it has bursts of colors in spring and summer. The colors that come out of the plants in spring are just so mesmerizing. I can't keep my camera away from it.
Community involvement is one of Vista Gardens' charms. Tell us about how, if somebody wanted to give back, what kinds of activities they could participate here in the garden and what their experience might be.
Well, we have a wonderful group of volunteers, which we hope to continue growing. And the volunteers do everything from learn to be docents to taking care of the garden itself, pruning, trimming, replanting, and helping with visitors, their arrivals, and guiding them around. So anyone who wants to become part of our community in that way is welcome to go to our website or give us a call and become a volunteer. We also have a board because we're a nonprofit, and we are always looking for people with various expertise to participate on our board. We're hoping that small business owners, community leaders, club leaders will help generate awareness and connection to our community by inviting us to come to them, to bring workshops and lectures to them, or come here and use this facility. We have a library, a botanical library here on the property. And so we want to be a hub for community engagement individually and with groups.
How can the community get in touch with Vista Gardens?
So it's pretty easy. You can go to vistagardens.org. You can call us on our new 800 number, 844-777-3660.
Thank you so much for reacquainting us to the Vista Garden, and I hope that our Planted viewers will be able to take an opportunity to come out and visit the garden, or maybe in the future be able to watch one of your new videos online, right?
I hope all that will happen. Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you. Thank you so much to John Albers, Santika Markovina, and Baki Kopelman for welcoming the BCAT crew into the Vista Garden.
We hope Planted viewers will get a chance to come out to and explore Vista Gardens with its amazing views of the Port Washington Narrows. You won't be disappointed.
Learn more at vistagardens.org. And until our next episode of Planted, don't forget, gardeners, the more you grow,
The more you'll know.